New AHA recommendations came out.
Oh boy. All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about
They will take my Lucas from my cold, dead hands. I disagree with
it.
that decision.
Anyone who's not aware of what Cody is talking about, you must live under oath. But this is basically what he's referencing. So we're starting up season 2. It was a nice little time off there. It was a good little, much needed break.
It was. I accomplished nothing.
Yeah. What did you do? Did you do anything other than work?
No. Worked.
Well,
Took care of kids. Wife has a new job, so
yeah. Well, we took a couple vacations. That was nice. Actually, this is the first time probably since my honeymoon that the wife and I have taken a vacation. Because I don't really count. We went to Mexico a few years ago for her cousin's wedding. I don't really count that. I mean, it was a vacation, but there was work involved. So, but definitely the first time. Actually, we went on 3. We did 2 trips to Florida this year, and we did a trip to St. Louis, Missouri, all of which were extremely, extremely cheap. The first one was free.
can't beat free.
Mhm. No, free trip. Not, granted, we had to pay. We ended up going to Disney World and had to pay for that, and that is not free, nor is it cheap.
No. You didn't try to do all the parks, did you?
No, we did Magic Kingdom.
Okay, you got to do the classics.
Yeah, I think we just did Magic Kingdom. We didn't go to Animal Kingdom or anything like that. Now next time we go, we will be going to Animal Kingdom because I think it's a little bit more kid friendly than. I mean, Magic Kingdom was nice. Don't get me wrong, but we really didn't see a whole lot of the characters. It was, I mean, it was fun. We got to see the fireworks at the end. That was kind of cool. I'd never seen that before. We did go to Universal Studios, and I thought that was super cool. I think Keegan liked it, but he didn't get to try out. He was too nervous to try out too many of the rides. We did the
Oh,
Transformer ride the first time, and he was like freaked out after that. Didn't want to do anything else. So
no. Well, that sucks. Oh,
it
you
was
got to
cool
get
though.
a different. You got to get.
No,
Yeah, Blackhawks for life.
yeah, the Blackhawks suck. So there's that. I mean, Blackhawks put all of their money into this one guy. Like, well, is he on season 2 now? I think this is the second or third. And he's not even that great. Oh, it's his third. He's not even that great.
You know, I'm perpetually cursed by loving teams that suck though. Blackhawks fan, Cubs fan.
Yeah, yeah. Cubs, very poor performance this year.
They
Although,
they did okay when they were at Wrigley. They couldn't do anything on the road.
yeah. So I'm also a Tigers fan, and Tigers did great at the first half of the season. Then they kind of slid back a little bit, but made it to the playoffs. Would have been nice to see them make it a little bit further than they did, but whatever. My grandfather is a huge Dodgers fan, so he's super excited that they won again.
I hate the Dodgers. I
We
hate the
were over at my
Dodgers.
sister's house for Halloween, and after the kids were done trick or treating, we went back to the house, had some pizza, which I have a whole nother story about that. But we had some pizza, and we were watching Saturday. Was that Game 6? Saturday?
Should have been.
Yeah, Saturday was Game 6, or I'm sorry, that was Friday. Friday was Game 6. Saturday was Game 7.
I
That's
have
right.
days I work and days I don't.
We were watching it, and of course, they wanted Toronto to win. And I referenced a good buddy of mine who is Canadian and informed them that you realize even Canada doesn't like Toronto, right? Like they don't even recognize they don't even recognize it as Canadians. So it's quite funny.
Oh,
You know,
great.
I,
I think I
another
know
thing
which
I did.
Canadian you're talking about too.
Oh, you do. Another thing I did was I started 75 hard this year.
Yeah?
And for anybody listening that's not familiar with what 75 hard is. So the program was started by a guy by the name of Andy Frisella. I'm going to shamelessly plug, I do not receive any financial income for doing this, but started this company First Form. If you haven't tried these energy drinks, they're freaking bomb. Zero sugar, only 15 calories, and I think 300 milligrams of caffeine in them.
Mm. Now you're talking my language.
Yeah, I got several flavors. My favorite is Screaming Freedom. It's got a bald eagle on the can, but that's Orange Fury, and it is bomb. It tastes like a dreamsicle. But so 75 Hard was started by Andy Frisella, who started First Form. And he started this program when he was like 350 pounds or something like that. And he drastically lost a ton of weight. So the program consists of you have to do two workouts every day. One of them has to be outdoors and they have to be a minimum of 45 minutes. You also have to drink a gallon of water, follow some kind of diet, doesn't matter what diet it is. If you just want to track your macros, then by all means do that as long as you follow it and don't have any cheat meals, can't have any alcohol. You have to read 10 pages of a nonfiction book.
I already failed.
And I believe that's it. I'm gonna tell you what, the first few days that I did it, it sucked. It was god awful, but you're building a routine, right? So it's a mental toughness program. It's to get you more disciplined.
I
So
feel
you're
like
doing this routine
any program you first start out though, it sucks. It doesn't matter what it is.
for sure. For
Man,
sure.
that's the hardest hurdle to get over.
Oh yeah. So after probably I would say after about 7 or 10 days, I started getting into this routine. And it got to the point where it was like second nature. Like if I did not get my second workout in for the day, I was freaking out. It didn't matter. I was going outside doing my second workout, even if it was dark out. Didn't care. I made it to day 50 and then went camping, game over. So I at least made it 50 days. Pretty disappointed in myself that I didn't follow through with the last 25 days, but I started back over in the spring, tried again. I'm still working out every day and doing something. So
I mean, it's kinda hard to do an outdoor workout every day of the year, where we're at.
it really is. It can be difficult, but the one thing to keep in mind, so First Farm is actually based out of St. Louis, Missouri. So they get just as cold as we do and they still manage to do it. So it's a mindset thing and I have no excuse, but other than I messed it up. So I'll try it
I mean,
again.
it's a mindset thing, but cold is cold. It's the reason why my bike is
For
on the
sure.
indoor trainer now.
Yeah.
I don't ride when I can get frostbite.
I will say, to kind of continue on with that, when I left fire and EMS back in 21, 22, somewhere around there.
Has it been that
Might
long?
have been 20, might have been 23 now that I think about it. I think I left the city in 21 or 22, and then I left everything all together in 23, something like that. But when I left, so in 2023, I weighed my heaviest. I was at 285 pounds. And I mean, you could see it in my face. It was awful. If I remember, I will attach a picture on here when I'm editing this to show everybody. But it was god awful. And I had zero energy. I felt like complete dog shit. I was tired every day at the same time. It was between noon and 2 o'clock. And I'm not just saying like fatigued, like I was ready to pass out. Um, I was just eating junk food and my mental health was absolute atrocious. But when I started actually working out and exercising and eating right and all that stuff, doing the things I was supposed to be doing, my mental health did a complete 180. Like I'm much happier now. I'm not exhausted in the middle of the day. Granted, TRT has kind of helped with that a little bit
Well,
after
I
doing
was gonna
some
say,
blood
I
work.
thought you actually started a little bit some supplements, or it was injections or supplements?
No, it's well, not really. A cream's a bad word for it, but that's pretty much what it's called. It's a cream. It's an alcohol-based applicant. You just rub it on your bicep and but I think my dose, I don't think we don't have the dose dialed in yet. I'm supposed to get another set of blood work here soon. I actually need to reach out to my doctor and find out when we're doing that, but supposed to get another set of blood work done and then adjust the dosage. Probably going to switch to the injection because the cream or whatever, you have to apply that every single day, whereas the injection is once a week. So a little bit easier later.
Good. I'm happy for you, bud. No, there's a actually that's a big thing in public safety. If you read some of the studies out there, just the interrupted sleep patterns and the stress.
Well, that and sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is huge in the
Hmm.
firefighter community. Um,
I
I
got two guys
I've
on my
never
shift
really.
that sleep with it, or sleep with CPAP rather because of it.
I'm sure there's studies out there, and I probably have looked them up before, but I would imagine firefighters have a much higher risk of sleep apnea. Makes sense, right? We wake up in the middle of the night constantly for calls. But
It's
I'm
all
sure there's some
interrupted
kind of
sleep
study out
patterns.
there. Oh yeah.
There absolutely is. I've read them. I have no idea what they are or know them well enough to cite them, but they're out there. Quick Google
Yeah,
search.
there's we've talked about it on this show before, but I know of
Hmm.
one department, I won't call them out. I know of one department though that at least a while back, they had one crew. I don't remember if it was A shift, B shift, or C shift, but they had one crew where literally the entire crew was on CPAP and they would all bring it into the station.
Well,
Yeah.
I've made
You
a
know
joke
what the cure
before.
is.
I've made a joke before that in the fire service, there's two types of people. There's the ones that sleep with CPAP and the ones that probably should.
True. It's very true. I did actually before going on TRT, I did do a sleep study, which was god awful. Um, and it came back saying I had mild sleep apnea. Nobody treats mild sleep apnea. Obviously, the doctor's office pushed for insurance to purchase a CPAP machine, who then promptly and quickly said no, which I'm perfectly fine with. I didn't press the matter. I didn't argue. I feel like I sleep fine at night. I don't feel like I wake up in the middle of the night gasping for air. If anything, I'm old, so I wake up in the middle of the night having to pee. That's about it.
I'm older than you, bud.
Yeah, you're like ancient.
You're not old.
You're only like a few years older than me.
I'm starting to. There's some gray in there now, bud.
My wife literally just picked gray out of my beard. She's been doing this for the past, well, since I had a beard, so past 3 years.
I can't even grow a beard. Work related
Even if
reasons,
you,
one. Work related reasons, one. Just the physical inability to grow a beard, second.
there it is. There it is.
So my shift is doing no shave November though, and it's
Like,
going to
you
look
guys aren't
horrible.
shaving your armpit hair or what?
No, we're all going to attempt to grow mustaches for the month of November.
How does your wife feel about that?
I'm probably not getting laid for a month.
She's not even gonna look at you.
It's for the boys.
Are you guys doing any kind of like
2 days.
fundraiser for it?
No, just to do it.
So Northwest Fire District normally does a fundraiser, but I don't think they're doing one this year. At least I haven't
Was
seen
it north?
anything.
Was it northwest or northeast? Or they do it together?
I think last year they may have done it together, but historically it's just been Northwest.
I haven't seen anything. No, we're just doing it to
Mm,
do it. But this is
You
what I
might
look
need
like
a.
after This is what I look like after shaving 2 days ago. So it's going to be a rough November.
It's gonna be real patchy. I think we might have to change your name. I did the name for the sake of the children. I don't think I'll say the name out loud.
Yeah, I know where you're going with that.
Yeah.
My concern is it never grows right down the middle.
So you grow a reverse Hitler stash?
Essentially, yes, is what it's going to be.
Let me see. Just
One of the
keeping
one of the
up with the
guys
trend.
one of the guys already has a mustache, so I said, "All right, well, you got to shave it off then, in November, so that way we all start out fresh." And he refused to do that, so I said, "Well, all right, by the end of November, then I want to see fucking curls. Like, you better be able to
Was it
curl the corners of that."
was it Drew or Andrew?
Neither one of them are on my shift.
I didn't even realize we were talking about people on in shifts. Got it.
Hmm. No, it's like, well, Drew's still in the process of growing his. It looks like a perpetual. I haven't shaved in 2 days mustache.
Drew's been in the process of growing his for the past 15 years.
Not to pick on him. I don't know if he listens to this, but yeah,
He does. So I ran into him and Andrew and some others at Travis Howe's event yesterday.
heard that was
And
good.
it was very good. That's the second time I've seen him talk. Travis House, not Drew. Drew talks a lot.
Drew talks
But
too much sometimes.
that's the second time I've seen Travis House talk though. So he obviously did more things than I did. Like he was in the military, he was a police officer, he was a firefighter. I think that's it. I think those are the things that he did. He went military first, then police, then he realized the errors of his ways and became a firefighter. And he openly admits that. Like he says there's two things that firefighters believe in. One is that they hate their lives, or that police officers believe in. One, that they hate their lives, and two, that they wish they were firefighters. So he realized that he was wrong and became a firefighter. But
That's why all the
if you
cops always
haven't,
hang out at the fire stations.
not really, but if you haven't listened to him talk, I highly recommend it. He's actually finally starting to. He says he's starting to slow down a little bit. I don't know, but he is limiting the amount of shows that he does every year, starting next year. Did like 30 shows this year or something like that. And I think he's kind of wanting to drop that down a little bit. But yeah, highly recommend him. Does a great job. I've actually taken a lot of things that he has said and kind of incorporated them into everyday life and conversations that I have with others as well. So it's a big thing that he says that I don't know that a lot of people accept, and they should. One of the big things he talks about is we always say how the fire department is a family. And we said it in EMS too, and I'm sure police say it too, but we always say we're a family, right? Well, take my situation, for example. When I left the field of public safety, how many people stuck around? How many people do I still talk with on a daily basis? Not many. A lot of them
That you weren't
kind of was
already
like,
friends with before.
there was one person that I wasn't already friends with before getting out of the fire department, and that was our friendly neighborhood Canadian, and he's the one that has stuck around. Everybody else, like you, I was friends with you before I got into EMS. Todd, we've had Todd on the show, or I've had Todd on the show before you came in as a co-host, and there's probably a couple others. I don't want to forget anybody and somebody be like, "What the hell, man? I thought we were friends." Yeah, bruh, chill.
I
Except
went, don't do that. Don't. I have to listen to that from with my kids all the time. But I actually went as Todd Nelson for Halloween because I went over to his
we will
house and he was
also we will also add that picture in here when I edit.
no, because so for Halloween, I prefer just to sit and hand out candy rather than take my kids around. But we did that. But I just like to sit out in my driveway with the garage open and hand out candy. My garage is a disaster, so I didn't want to use my own garage for it. So I went over to Todd's house, which is right down the road from me, and it was hilarious because I'm sitting out there with his girlfriend, and Todd's not there, so I was the Timu version of Todd Nelson for Halloween.
So some other things that occurred over the summer is we officially launched Project 86. So Project 86 is a not-for-profit organization. The goal is to continue the mental health conversation with first responders and healthcare workers. With that, from a financial standpoint, we want to be able to assist any first responder or healthcare worker who needs to or wants to go into rehab for any reason, no questions asked. We will not, there's no judgment involved in it whatsoever. We understand that addiction is unfortunately very common within the field. So, one of the things that we will do is we will assist with the funding, help people get their way in. Because if you're not familiar with the cost of going into a rehab facility, for a 30-day stay, you're looking at around $30,000 at least. And in a lot of cases, it's even more than that. So, not to mention, in a lot of situations, 30 days is not long enough either. A lot of people end up spending additional time, 60 days, maybe even 90 days in a facility. So, we want to be able to help with some of the funding for that, especially
The
since
That's a cost that insurance doesn't necessarily always cover as well.
so the big problem is insurance looks at it as, well, this was, an unnecessary expense or an unnecessary treatment. Or they look at it and say, well, you didn't give us enough heads up. And they may say, we're not covering it. In a lot of cases, I've spoken with some different facilities in the past, and they have mentioned that there are times where that happens, but at least this one particular facility that I spoke with said they work with the patient as much as they can to try to keep that from happening. There are different scholarship opportunities available. However, most of that is gone in the beginning of the year because that's how much they're budgeted for. So we want to try to fix that and be able to help anybody at any time. In order to do that, though, we need help. We need donations. We're going to have different events starting next year. I've got volunteers in Indiana, Ohio, and Wisconsin as of right now. My hope is I would like to see that number grow. I would love to have at least one representative in all 50 states at some point. That will obviously take some time. But if anybody is ever interested in being a volunteer, you're interested in donating, or want to know what kind of events we have coming up, you can visit the website at project86.org. You can also send us a message on there, ask any questions that you have. But that's the game plan. In fact, we've got some merch that will be coming out here soon. Pay attention to our social media on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Well, TikTok kind of. I'm still looking for somebody to run the social media for me because I got awful at it. But we will be announcing it on our social media sites and our website. It will be a pre-order sale so that we know how many shirts to have made, but this will be our very first shirt design. I think it's a cool looking shirt. I happily designed it myself with the help of our shirt person that's making them for us. So yeah, so that's that announcement. Um, what else we got going on? It was pretty much how the summer went. Was setting all that stuff up, getting that website up and running, getting official with the feds and the state and all that stuff. Yeah.
So to go along with this new season, Tyler, I don't know if I've added some shirts to my shirt background here. Do you happen to see those?
EMS world. Nice.
Yeah, that was an adventure.
Yeah, what'd you think of it?
I took some good classes. For the most part, I think it was overrated, but there's just a crap ton of people there. It's the first time it's ever been in Indy, and I think a lot of the local departments took advantage of that.
So how would you compare it to FDIC?
Oh,
Because I've
FDIC is way better.
never been to EMS world. I always wanted to go, but had never been to it. I'm assuming it's smaller than FDIC.
Yes and no. I mean, there was just as many people there. I mean, obviously It's EMS is the primary focus. So I mean, I got to play with a lot of newer technologies and stuff that are coming out. Nothing necessarily like, oh my gosh, this will change EMS forever, but a lot of the existing stuff is improving, especially with AI. You know, AI is not just to make stupid videos for TikTok, and the incorporation of that into a lot of this stuff. I think FDIC is probably a little bit better organized, but FDIC has the advantage of being in the same place every single year for however many years it's been in Indy, where I know EMS World likes to kind of
Well, if
flip.
memory serves me correctly, and I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think FDIC kind of started off that, and then they just happened to get the contract with the city of Indianapolis for like, I think at first it was for like 10 years and then they renewed it or something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, when FDIC was, I think FDIC actually used to be a Fort Wayne thing when it first started.
Oh, did it? I didn't know this.
But I mean, they do have the advantage in that it's the same place every year. So
Any
there was lines to every single class, and they were turning away people at the doors because they were full. Like that was a frustrating aspect of it. But I mean, there were some good classes that I took. So
Was there any big news that came out down there? Like any changes in any protocols or procedures or anything like that?
there certainly was, sir. The new AHA recommendations came out.
Oh boy. All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk
And
about
they will take my Lucas from my cold dead hands. I disagree with
it.
that decision.
Anyone who's not aware of what Cody is talking about, you must live under oath. But this is basically what he's referencing. This came out, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. But basically saying that there is no evidence showing that the mechanical compression device in out of hospital cardiac arrest has any benefit. Now, obviously, HA didn't really do their own study. They based this off of about 16, I believe. No, sorry, 22 different articles ranging anywhere from 2003 all the way up to 2024. Okay. And in this, they basically say that there's no evidence showing that it benefits the patient, but they also don't show any evidence saying that it like decreases the chance of survival either. Now they do mention before you get your pitchforks out and your torches and start coming after me,
My
they do
pitchfork is
mention
already out.
that they noticed that it was causing more rib fractures, more sternal fractures, things like that. But
How old is that study? How old is
well,
that study?
and here's the other argument is that really the fault of the machine or does that come down to a training failure? I would argue that it's more of a training failure. But for the sake of this argument, most of these studies, from what I have gathered, somebody will probably correct me, most of these studies are based off of outdated technology. It's not based off of like the Lucas 3 device or anything of that nature
Which
necessary.
has specific design features built into it to fix those problems.
So I happened to pull up a
I'm
study
salty about this if anybody can't tell.
before Cody has a stroke. I happened to pull up a study, and this is from the National Library of Medicine. Okay. Okay. See everybody see that up there? Yep. So comparison of manual chest compressions versus mechanical chest compressions for out of hospital cardiac arrest, a systematic review of meta analysis. Great. So, the background out of hospital cardiac arrest is a life threatening condition that requires immediate intervention to increase the prospect of survival. Yeah, no shit. There are various ways to achieve cardiopulmonary resuscitation in such patients, either through manual chest compressions or mechanical chest compressions. Okay, so let's stop there. There are various ways, but we're only going to give you two because there's really only two ways for somebody that's in cardiac arrest. Okay, whatever. Moving on. Thus, we performed a systematic review and meta analysis to investigate the difference between these interventions. Okay, great. So you can go on and read this crap yourself, but here's the results. So there were 24 studies included within this quantitative synthesis, featuring a total of 111,681 cardiac arrest patients. Overall, no statistically significant differences were observed between the return of spontaneous circulation, survival to hospital discharge, short term survival, and long term survival. However, manual chest compressions were associated with a significantly superior favorability of neurological outcomes. Okay, we're just going to stop there for
I
a
have
minute.
I have a reply there to that.
Mhm.
So, my particular EMS system that I work for has specific protocols for mechanical CPR devices. All right. So, I have to do 6 minutes of manual compressions before I'm allowed to place somebody on a mechanical CPR device. And my experience, just my personal experience, if I'm going to get anybody back with any type of possibility of having a improved neurological outcome, it's probably going to be in that first 2, 4, 6 minutes, right?
Sure.
Outside of that, the chances of you getting anything back the chances of you getting anybody back that has any type of neurological function, it's slim to none, unfortunately. It's not Chicago Fire, it's not the TV show ER where we can shock asystole and
So that first 2, 4, or 6 minutes, pretend that you are talking to a patient and they go into cardiac arrest right in front of them. Okay. Besides the obvious of you're going to immediately start chest compressions on the patient, what else are you doing? What's the
you're
protocol for somebody that
shocking
goes
them.
in? You're
VFib, ride the
shocking them,
lightning.
right? So we have studies showing that a defibrillator has increased your chance of survival. Immediate application of a defibrillator improves the likelihood of somebody surviving a cardiac arrest inside or outside the hospital. Like we have evidence showing there's plenty of evidence showing that. But the whole point of there's two main points of why this device was introduced to begin. One, because when you set it up and you set it up properly, it is giving the proper depth of compressions every single time, assuming that it doesn't slip, assuming that you tightened it correctly, assuming all of those things. It's giving the proper depth and the proper rate of compressions, right? Am I right so far?
You are correct.
So that was reason number one. Reason number two is for anybody that's ever worked in a rural setting where your closest hospital is 45 minutes to an hour away, and you have somebody that you are actively working, we're going to take protocols out the window on this one. We're going to assume that your protocol is, you contact the hospital and the hospital constantly wants you to transport patients, right? Regardless of anything. 9 times out of 10, a lot of these EMS agencies, you only have two people. I can't tell you how many times I have gone on a cardiac arrest and I had to work a patient by myself waiting for a fire department to show up or another ambulance to show up. It happens often. So you have one person that is dedicated to doing compressions. You have your paramedic partner who is starting an IV, who is getting medications ready, who's getting saline ready, who is intubating, who is doing all of these other things that would be so much easier if you had two sets of hands to do that. So, introducing this device that takes that middleman out of the equation, does the compressions while you have you and your partner working on the other important things of trying to save this patient, not to mention the AED pads or defibrillator pads or
The Lucas is the best firefighter they ever made.
whatever. You know, you know.
It's firefighter of the year.
So I think it's kind of bullshit that the AHA sends this out and then basically tells everybody without telling them, because I'm pretty sure in their announcement they said, we're not telling you to remove these from service. But they're basically telling you that it's pointless to use, even though it's really not. Like there's no evidence showing that it's decreasing the likelihood of somebody. Not to mention, let's just look at the data for what are your chances if you go into cardiac arrest out of hospital, what are your chances of survival? And when I say chances of survival, I mean you are discharged from the hospital with zero deficits. Anybody know what
Well
what the
below,
percentage is?
w- well below 10%.
It's around 7%. I think it's between 7 and 10%. That's nationwide. That's not like in Fort Fun, Indiana. That's not in Memphis, Tennessee. That is nationwide statistics, right? So
That's if I get to you pretty much as soon as you arrest.
that's assuming that there was somebody there that was smart enough to notice that Jim Bob just went into cardiac arrest, doesn't have a pulse, they're not breathing. I have an AED in my pocket, and I now take it out and immediately slap it on you and then start compressions. That's assuming something like that happens. How often does that happen? Look at how many times we make every business, every contractor, every whatever. We make everybody go through CPR training of some sort, right? Like if you work in a hospital or you work in EMS or fire department or whatever, you have healthcare provider CPR. Chances are through AHA. Businesses like private entities, they typically go through the Red Cross, whatever. That's a different argument for a different day. But we preach CPR and first aid. We preach it. And yet the outcome remains the same. Your chances of survival and walking out of the hospital with zero deficits remains below 10%. But it's the mechanical machine that just came out in like 2002 that really didn't become popular until the mid 2000s. That's the problem. That's the fault right there.
Yeah, my Lucas device is killing people. What do they say about Epi, Tyler? They still
All right. So
recommending Epi?
let's talk about epi. So yes, AHA does still recommend the use of epi. There is a study that came out in, let's see, this was September 25th, 2025. Single dose epinephrine protocol is associated with improved survival of older adults with out of hospital cardiac arrests. Okay. You can
What
read
does
this study in
ACLS
your own.
say? What does ACLS say though?
I'll let you pull that up, but AHA still, obviously, AHA still recommends that, which actually I'll get to that in just a second because I do have a screen for that. All right. So the results. So among 1,690 patients, 899 of them were multiple dose epi protocol. 791 of them were single dose epi protocol. 864 were older, 538 were middle aged, and 288 were young. Whatever. Pull up the article yourself if you want to figure out what those are. But survival occurred in 13.6% in the multiple dose group and 15.4% in the single dose group. Now, you may be saying, but Tiny, that's less than a 2% increase. Let's go back to what I just said of what historically the data has been of less than 10% of patients walk out of the hospital with zero deficits. So they're showing that single dose epi has been an outcome. Okay, so let's share this screen here. I wish I could do this a lot quicker than what I do. So here, this is on the AHA website. So administration of epinephrine is recommended for adult patients in cardiac arrest. It is reasonable to administer epi 1 milligram every 3 to 5. I can't highlight it. Every 3 to 5 minutes for adult patients in cardiac arrest. With respect to timing for adult patients in cardiac arrest with a non-shockable rhythm, it is reasonable to administer epi as soon as feasible. With respect to timing for adult patients in cardiac arrest with a shockable rhythm, it is reasonable to administer epi after initial defibrillation attempts have failed. No benefit. So we're in the no benefit now. Vasopressin alone or vasopressin in combination with epi offers no advantage as a substitute for epi for adult patients in cardiac arrest. And high dose epi is not recommended for routine use for adult patients in cardiac arrest.
But they don't put a limit on it. They don't talk about what is high dose. What's a high dose, right? I could give a rock a pulse with enough epi.
Well,
You
but
know,
again,
I
it comes back to they say to administer 1 milligram of epi every 3 to 5 minutes for adult patients in cardiac arrest. Okay, so typical protocols, you work a patient for 45 minutes if they're that's just if they're in it's been a while, so you might have to correct me. 45 minutes, that's even if they're in a non-shockable rhythm, right? We're not even including
no. If they're in a shockable rhythm right now, it's 45 minutes. If they're asystole, it's 25. That's what my local
45 minutes if
protocols
they're in
are.
a
I don't know what
shockable
everybody else is running off of.
so 45 minutes if they're in a shockable rhythm. What if there's a rhythm change within that 45 minutes? Does that time increase?
No, it's still the same 45 minutes. But if you have if I believe if you have a rhythm change to a shockable rhythm, it changes things a little bit as far as whether you're transporting or not.
So, according to ACLS protocols, what do they currently say is the maximum dose of epi in a cardiac arrest patient with shockable rhythms?
There's nothing on what's the max dose. I can quote you my protocols that I run off of every day, but there's nothing in ACLS right there. I even just pulled up the algorithm. There's no limit.
So
It just says high. It just says high.
you're saying you're saying though that they're encouraging multiple dose of epi,
I don't know that I would say encouraging. They just didn't change anything.
but it doesn't say only do single dose, right?
No.
It says
I
give
mean, let's.
epi every 3 to 5 minutes for adult patients
So,
in cardiac arrest.
I mean, therein lies my problem with the whole mechanical CPR is bad because it doesn't show any type of improved patient outcomes. But there's legitimate research out there that you can find that proves that high doses of epi actually decreases neurological outcomes of patients in cardiac arrest. I mean,
Yeah.
because the whole point of doing CPR is to circulate oxygenated blood, particularly to your brain. That way your brain doesn't die. And what does epi do? Epi closes everything off. It's a vasoconstrictor. So let's just dump a crap ton of epi in them. We're going to probably get some type of organized rhythm out of them eventually if we dump enough epi. Because, like I said, I could give a rock a pulse with enough epi, but then you've got patients that are just they're vegetables because we've decreased the amount of oxygen to their brain. Great job, guys.
I saw an article when I was looking all this stuff up, and I couldn't tell you where it's at. I don't think I saved it. But I saw an article that was talking about epi use, and it started off with I kid you not, first sentence was something along the lines of the use of epinephrine in cardiac arrest patients has been done for over 150 years. Basically, trying to insinuate that, well, we've been doing this. We've
It's
always
the
done it
way
this
we've
way.
always done it.
Why would we
I,
change anything? We've always done it this way. But again,
I fucking hate
the
that.
problem
Excuse me,
is
but
the problem is mechanical chest compressions. The machine is the problem. The machine that's only been out for less than 25 years. That's the problem.
well, so the same things even what the AHA is referencing. Even if you want to, okay, misplacement, increasing the amount of ribs that were broken. You can do the same thing with poor CPR, and it
100%.
is the same. It is the same problem with that as with placement of that mechanical CPR device. Comes down to training.
Not even just poor CPR, poor anatomy of the patient. Like, depending on the age of the patient that you're working, yeah, you're probably going to break something when you start pushing on their chest to get to the proper depth. If you're doing compressions on a 95-year-old lady, you're going to have a different things are going to happen differently because of their anatomy compared to that of a 21-year-old who was out jogging and went into cardiac arrest. The
I
anatomy
mean,
is different. It's the same, but it's
I
older.
I personally wouldn't even put the Lucas on a 95-year-old person for that
No,
reason.
but that's not my point. My point is even on manual compressions, like you can still bust their ribs on a 95-year-old. I don't
Mm,
know. I get where they're trying to go with it to an extent, but at the same time, I don't feel like it's okay to say, we're not seeing any improvement, but we're not seeing any decrease either. So just stop using it. Like that doesn't make sense. That's not how this works. That just
but
means
hey,
that whoever's creating this
fill 'em full of epi.
technology, yeah, right. That just means
It
whoever's creating this technology, they just need to
they
make some
just
adjustments. Technology needs to catch up.
or they're not paying off the AHA.
Honestly, that could be a solid argument. I
Huh.
don't know. I don't have proof that
I
that's
don't
how
either.
that
That was
works.
pure conjecture.
Sure, but you look at some of these other journals that are out there. Most of the journals, like Journal of, I'm not even going to name any names because I don't want to get sued. But there are different magazines, different articles, journals, things like that. Most of them are paid and funded by who? Big Pharma. And that's why when you look at these articles and journals, you see a lot of advertisements for different drugs. A lot of them are usually from the same manufacturer. So who's to say? So I had this conversation with somebody. Won't name their name. Had this conversation with somebody probably about a month or so, and we were talking about big pharma and all that stuff and how, if somebody I can't even remember where I was going with it, but I lost some train of thought. Yeah. Money, it was about studies, about different studies, right? So science, let's go back to high school science class. Okay. So you're learning about what a hypothesis is and you're learning about basics of how to do a study, right? So in science, it's supposed to be unbiased, right? No bias whatsoever. That's the whole point
Ah,
of doing a study. So the goal is, you have a controlled group and you have your study, right? Like that's pretty much how it works. Placebo, the actual drug, and the goal is to see if the drug works compared to the placebo, the whole 9 yards, right? But that's not how it's always happened. You get a lot of these companies and government agencies and whatever that they're so focused on wanting to make this work that they become more biased towards what it is that they're doing. So your outcome is going to be biased. So it's not going to be a true scientific study.
oh, with healthcare studies, if you have an opinion, I can probably find you a study that will back it up. That's how healthcare studies work. There's studies for this, and then there's studies to counter this, and
But maybe, and this is just a theory, one could call this a conspiracy theory. Maybe they're looking at this as, well, if these mechanical devices increase the likelihood of surviving and a department responds to somebody's house and they don't have a mechanical device because they're stupid expensive.
they're
Mhm. and
ridiculously expensive.
and
That's another
that
issue.
patient dies. Now the family can say, well, studies show that mechanical compressions is way better than, I got that backwards, didn't I? That the machine is way better than doing hands on. Why didn't you have that? Now we're going to sue you. Maybe, or maybe they can turn around and say, well, crap, we're not going to make any money out doing all of this CPR training that we've been pushing down people's throats for the past 50 years when the outcome hasn't changed. Now we're not going to make any
I mean,
money off of it.
I will never say that because I 100% think bystander CPR makes a difference regardless of whether a Lucas device is used. Early compressions and early defibrillation has not changed.
My point was you can purchase, a company could purchase a Lucas device and hang it up right next to their AED if they were cheaper. And they could be like, "Man, just throw that on there with the AED and we're good to go."
I don't know of any company that would do that, but it
No,
is
but
way cheaper. It is way cheaper to pay for a CPR class at that point. But I mean, if you want to play devil's advocate,
it's
go for it.
2025. We're conspiracy theorists at this point. If you have a
There you
pulse,
go.
you're a conspiracy theorist. So
I mean, but you also have the flip side of that. How many departments out there in the country have some type of mechanical CPR device? And okay, now the AHA is recommending that, or not recommending mechanical CPR for cardiac arrest. And they're also being very ambiguous about, oh, well, hey, if you have one, we're not saying get rid of it, right? What happens, you go out there and you use that very expensive piece of equipment that your department has acquired for whatever reason, might be a manpower issue, might just be, more efficient means of working a cardiac arrest. I can tell you that back when my department was a volunteer department and we only staffed the ambulance, that those devices helped. I literally I sent volunteers back to work that responded from work because I didn't need them. It was great as far as to utilize when manpower and resources weren't there. But now you have that situation where I use that mechanical CPR device and there's not a good outcome with that arrest. Do then my department face some type of legal repercussions or a lawsuit because, hey, you just used that mechanical CPR device? The AHA says that they don't recommend it. My loved one or family member or what have you, like if you would have just done manual CPR, they would have survived.
yeah, I mean it opens the door for a lot of issues. And but I
Now,
think
now I have a $40,000 to $50,000 piece of equipment on one of my trucks that is uh, paperweight, a fucking
think
brick.
I think
Pardon my
at
language. I'm
the end
sorry.
of all of this, I think at the end of all of this, the big thing that we need to remember is in order to have the best possible outcome for any patient that goes into cardiac arrest, whether it's out of hospital or in hospital, is getting on that chest as fast as you can, getting them hooked up to an AED or some kind of defibrillator as fast as you can. Obviously, if you're in hospital, you want to figure out what their rhythm is, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, for the average lay person, the best thing you can do is immediately start chest compressions after you've determined that they don't have a pulse and they're not breathing. Stop on the third ouch. Yeah, he
I
got it.
wouldn't even stop on the ouch.
But the thing is we obviously want people to start compressions as fast as we can, and we want to get them hooked up to an AED as quickly as they can. I think companies and businesses across the country have done a much better job of making sure they have not just one AED inside their building, but having multiple spread out, just like you would with a fire extinguisher. Have them spread out throughout the building so that people don't have to travel a great distance and waste time trying to find. I think that's the most
Yeah, it
important.
just it just
I
goes
think
back
all of
to the chain of survival. You remember that, Tyler? The
yeah,
cardiac chain
well,
of survival.
yeah, it
Early
got
af-
added
early
on to it.
early early activation of 911, early CPR, early defibrillation. That's what's going to early CPR, mechanical or manual, and early defib. That's what's going to save people. That's what's going to bring people back.
I feel like there were 5 chains in that. Weren't there 5 links in that chain?
Oh, they've probably increased it. That's
They
just
did.
the basic one. Like you for the that's for the layperson. So I mean, you've
Yes, you're
got
you're
you've got
100% right.
you've got the call 911, start CPR, AED, EMS response, hospital care and recovery. That's the widened cardiac chain of survival. But the big one that pretty much encompasses it all is the early activation of 911, early CPR, and early defib.
So
Like my
I
department
would
alone
love
in the I don't remember last month before, I think it was September. Like we had a almost all out of all of our cardiac arrest patients, we had almost a quarter of them actually walk out of the hospital and are logically intact. And
yeah,
every
it's
single
not
one of
common.
Every single one of those patients that walked out neurologically intact received bystander CPR.
We'd love to get somebody from the AHA on the show. So if you happen to be with the AHA and you listen to the show, first of all, thank you. Secondly, I'm shocked. And third, I would love to have you on the show so we can try to get a little bit more information as to why this decision was made. I also think for those of you that have listened to some of our other episodes, I'd like to get Tyler Christofoli back on here and maybe he can help explain some of this a little bit further. If you're not familiar with who Tyler is, he is the co-founder of Foam Frat, which is a great, great program. I will happily advertise them for free. If you are an EMT, paramedic, nurse, whatever, you can go to their website. I believe it is foamfrat.com. On there, they have ways that you can do your continuing education. I'm just going to go ahead and pull up their website and show it to you.
Yep, it is indeed foamfrat.com.
Yep. So on there, there's so many different things. You can earn CE hours for paramedics and EMTs. It meets all of the National Registry recertification requirements. In fact, one little fancy thing is when you do your CE hours, once you've completed them, you can have it set up to automatically go over to your national registry so that you don't have to sit there and mess around with trying to get all that uploaded on your own. But so many different things. They talk about everything. ECPR. They talk about dissecting cardiac. They talk about all sorts of different stuff. In fact, Tyler does a lot of these designs and he makes like these fun little cartoon stuff to keep you engaged. Here's their prices. Highly recommend that you check them out. That may seem steep, but I'm telling you, you will get a lot out of it. I used this program when I was in paramedic school to kind of help get a better idea of the things that I was learning in school, and it helped tremendously. So
Well,
I,
and
I highly recommend it.
you get complete access to their entire library with that yearly price, correct?
Yes, you get complete access to the library. They've got free workbooks. They've changed a lot of things since I was there. They also have some quick reference cards that you can purchase and keep them in your pockets. For those of you that are brand new in EMS, whether you're brand new EMT or brand new paramedic, these quick reference cards, I'll just share the screen again so you can see what I'm talking about. I cannot stress enough how awesome these are. So let's see if we can click on them and see some of them. Oh, there's their shop. But here's their pocket guide. So when I first started in EMS, I had this little pocketbook that I kept in my pocket, um, and I relied on that heavily for just about every call I was going on. In fact, there was a call I relied on it so heavily that there was a I got dispatched to a yeah.
Still got
What was
it.
that? Yeah. I got dispatched on a accident with injuries involving a pregnant female complaining of abdominal pain. And I start flipping through this book, and then I was like, wait a minute, this is a basic guide. It's not going to say anything in there about what I need to do. So I had to start going back through, obviously, what my protocols were and what I had learned. But this guide that they have, that they've created, has everything. I mean, if your department is utilizing ultrasound, they've got a guide for that. If you want to reference different like cardiac rhythms or, you know, SpO2, things like that, it's got everything on there that you could possibly want. So highly recommend you check them out. But I do need to get a hold of him and see if we can get him back on and maybe he can elaborate a little bit more on this whole mess. With that, Cody, I'm trying to keep these episodes shorter. We're at an hour and 10 minutes. I think that's enough mind blowingness for everybody. Again, we're back. This is season 2. Probably going to try to do an episode a week. Sometimes might just have me on a monologue type situation, but we're back. We'll have some more guests coming on too.
Kids just busted in if you couldn't hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine's been knocking on the door. So, all right, everybody. Appreciate y'all. We'll catch you next week.
See you guys.